Welcome to Journey with Josh. I'm Josh Ubaldi, and we're taking you on a journey of a lifetime into marketing and advertising. In every episode, we're diving into the main ingredients that give you the deepest connection with your audience, as well as the biggest bang for your buck. Together, we'll solve every mystery about marketing you've ever come across, so you can get all the leads and sales you want, and best of all, how to grow a business you truly love, full of happy customers and fantastic referrals. Let's give your business the journey of a lifetime. Hello there, and welcome to Journey with Josh. I am so excited to welcome you into this inaugural episode of Journey with Josh, also subtitled here, The Mystery of Marketing Solved, because this is absolutely going to be a different kind of journey in the world of business for you. This is especially true because we're going to talk through and kind of discover a few different ways of doing things in terms of marketing and advertising that is going to take as much of the mystery out of this as possible. I have been several years in the advertising world and many longer years in marketing. And I just constantly am coming up against how many mysteries there are about why things work or why things don't work. And that's what we're going to really spend time diving into here. I also am really excited to bring some special guests into this journey for you as we take you on your own business journey and kind of elevate that as much as we can, and bring some special people on here to really highlight what has been the most successful elements of their own journey. And maybe some of those things are things you can apply for yourself as well. So in this first episode, this inaugural episode, I'm going to dive right into the meatiest, most constant thing that makes all the difference in the world in my world of marketing, my very special Willy Wonka type world of marketing, which is, again, all proven. There's no theory here. It's just the kind of stuff that works. And I want to dive directly in today with the golden rule. Now, we're going to continually come back to this concept and idea of journey, and the journey that you're on in your business and the journey that you're able to take your audience on, your customers on, of course. But everything really consistently starts with the golden rule. Why would that be the case? I think in some ways we have to also remind people what the golden rule is, but this is a marketing journey that is literally all about connection and doing your very best, because I know everyone who's catching this, who's in this world of marketing their own online business or their online services, that you're certainly doing the best that you can, right? Like, I know everyone is doing the very best they can. And my goal is always, which you will hear me say repeatedly, right? To help you make your best just that little bit or that big bit better to bring you up to that next big level that you want to hit. And all of this keeps coming back over and over to connection. This is about making all of your marketing and advertising a lot more relationship oriented and way less transactional. And the way we do that is just by constantly coming home and making it all about connection over and over and over. It's such a beautiful practice. And it is something that you discover with marketing. It takes a little practice. So I find the golden rule inside anyone's business to truly be that hidden element of getting awesome results for both you, obviously, and also for the people that you're able to serve with whatever the service or products of your business actually are. This is really, it's really a lovely way to start this whole entire podcast, because all of this is based in my experience and my family. I still have my parents, and they both still happen to be together, for good or bad. Take that for what it is. But my parents actually just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And I grew up in a very big, loud, interactive, everybody and everybody else's business type of Italian household. We also happen to be really Catholic, as a lot of Italians are. If you haven't been to the Vatican, now is the time to make sure that you just go for the art if you're not going for the religious piece of it. It's truly amazing. And the golden rule I discovered as I started to have more awareness in my life and as I became older and really became an adult out in the world. The golden rule was something that was always at play in my family, right? So believe me, I know plenty of people who are religious in different ways and don't really apply or adhere to the golden rule in any way whatsoever. But in this regard, my family was really good. If I think back to my mom or my dad and the values that they constantly were very verbally, proactively instilling in me, it was very much about the golden rule. So this is almost, as much to honor them and their first 50 years together, and will probably be their only 50 years together, in terms of what they were able to pass on, that I feel very lucky and really fortunate and grateful to be able to pass on to you. So let's kind of pull apart just for a second. Well, what is this golden rule if you are still a little unsure about what the golden rule is? I'm very, very aware that not everybody grew up with the same things that I did, for example. So the golden rule, put quite simply, is a really beautiful principle or philosophy of treat other people the way you would want to be treated. Now, that could be a loaded topic depending on the ways you like to be treated and the ways you're used to being treated. But we're going to kind of make a starting point guess, if not assumption, that you want to be treated as well as you can be treated. You want to be treated like gold. You want to be treated beautifully. You want to be treated not with kid gloves necessarily and like delicate, right? But you want to be treated with, I'm going to say, like wholeheartedness. You want to be treated with generosity and beauty and a whole ton of love. You're going to discover throughout this entire podcast, we are not necessarily what we call a woo-woo podcast, but great business practices, huge data-driven, numbers-driven, conversion-driven business practices. They're really not at all incompatible with connection-based practices and starting with really great intentions and a whole lot of love and letting all that other more businessy stuff become a bigger part of it. At the end of the day, this golden rule is always about feelings, right? So if we start with the golden rule, again, to encapsulate it, treating other people like you would want to be treated in terms of, in this case, your business, your marketing, your advertising. How do you want to be treated? Do you want to be forced into something and buying something? Or do you want to be introduced to it? Do you want to be offered a service? Do you want to be told a little more so you could get to know, like, and trust it? We'll talk a whole lot more about know, like, and trust on a very different level in a separate podcast. But for now, this really is all about putting that marketing hat on and thinking, how can I make as many of literally all of my marketing and sales practices as much about connection and as much as about treating other people like you would want to be treated? It always keeps coming back to feelings. All right. Great marketing, you may have heard before and you may not have. Great marketing always kind of starts and ends with feelings, and it always comes back to feelings. The stuff that happens here in the brain is so much more about that secondary experience of rationalizing why you want to do what you want to do. If any of us think about going on some sort of workout plan or like physical health plan, right? Maybe that's an eating plan, maybe that's a workout plan, any of those type of things. You're always starting with the thing that you really want, and then you're kind of rationalizing what you need to do to get there. The same thing will constantly, fundamentally always be the same thing that moves all of us with marketing and with great business practices. So this is something that allows you, when you approach your marketing through the golden rule, by coming back to how do you want to treat your audience the same way you would want to be treated, it lets you get to the heart of your audience itself, right? I truly love getting to connect quickly with the feelings and just connecting quickly with my audience, right? I'm not naturally a big small talk person. I'd rather cut to the core a little faster. It's just my personal preference. But as much as I like to connect with the people I get to have conversations with, I love even more watching anyone who I get to help, even with my own business, do that so much faster with their own audiences, their own customers, the people they get to interact with and say, are you my ideal customer? Are you someone that I want to engage with? And maybe there's a sale attached to it. All of these things 100% bring you up to that next business success level for sure. Whether you're trying to get to, whether you're trying to get from 5 to 6 figures, basic 6 figures to multiple 6 figures, or maybe you're just trying to break through going from, one level of 6 figures even to 7 figures. We're going to talk in a totally different podcast as I think about it, about how many of those things are exactly the same thing. So all of this so easily just becomes about using the golden rule as your North Star. Right? And when I say using it as your North Star, I mean like that one guiding principle that you can constantly use as like a beacon or a light, or just that thing in the distance where you're like, that's where I want to keep going back to. And maybe you get off course a little bit and you got to course correct and you're like, oh, I was going that way, but there's that light and I'm going to course correct and go that way. Now, I do want to come back to what I started to say earlier, which is not everybody has the same experience. Not everybody grows up with something like the golden rule as a guiding principle, right? A lot of people deal with a lot of crap in a lot of bigger ways, and I could say much stronger things about it. But it's really most important to remind ourselves in this world of marketing or business that no one's going to be perfect at it either. Whatever your experience in the past has been, none of that will impact what you can do and what you want to do in the future. None of us are ever going to do any of this perfectly. We can just take it, acknowledge it, love it, and lovingly put it aside and keep moving forward toward that North Star. That's kind of the most important thing. Mostly though, when we do come back in terms of business to talk about this stuff, using this as a North Star helps you move so much faster through roadblocks. Do you want to make a lot more revenue faster? Do you want to make all of running your business a lot easier? Whatever are the most important things for you in your business, right? There will always be these individual roadblocks or obstacles that pop up, right? So if you just take a moment right now and you think, okay, the one main thing I really want right now is, right, more clients, more revenue, charging more from fewer clients, whatever that is, right? You could really take 3 things off the top of your mind right now. Number 1 is X for you. Number 2 is A for you. And number 3 is M for you. What are those 3 things that you really want in your business and that you want your marketing and sales process to do for you? Each of those individual 3 things comes with its own specific roadblocks. Now, you may be lucky in some ways that for each of those 3 things, those roadblocks may be exactly the same. For other people in business, depending on where you exactly are in your business, right? Each of those things may have slightly different roadblocks. Either way, I am here to tell you that it's proven, and it's so nice to see that coming back to focusing on all of your marketing and sales through this filter of the golden rule is so much more about being able to just take the roadblock and move it aside and then just keep moving forward. Hey, it's Josh here. Are you finally ready for advertising that works every single time? If so, then download the 3 T's of great advertising right now. We're going to give you our simple 3-step system that quite literally works every time for ads that do the job time and again. And as well, we're also going to give you the 7 marketing must-haves. These are the main principles so you can get the absolute most out of your investment in any type of Facebook and Instagram ads and beyond. Don't hesitate. Let's get started today and make this super simple. It's certainly not rocket science, and there's no smoke and mirrors. Download it today at www.goldenringmarketing.com/get started. One more time, that's www.goldenringmarketing.com/get started. And we'll see ya on the other side. That's the beautiful thing about this. This very much is about the case for marketing and 100% advertising, of course, too. Advertising is really where you're going to take complete control over all of your business and your offers and the way you communicate with people, because you're going to invest a little differently and maybe just a little more in different ways with advertising. And that becomes something that has a little more experience to it. What is that experience? It's a little pressure, right? It may be a little pressure. It may be that it may take a couple extra steps, or maybe just one or two extra steps that then you thought you might have to take to move a roadblock aside or just continue moving forward. And being able to come back to the golden rule and say, well, now I'm going to do this to move that roadblock aside or reach this goal. Now I'm going to do this. Has that thing contributed to keeping you connected to your audience, or has it actually made you feel a little more separate from your audience? Over, God, almost a decade, not really a decade, but almost a decade of working in this marketing and advertising sphere, right? It's really clear to me how people, the most heart-centered businesses, the people who, are intrinsically the people I love to work with, who are mission-based and purpose-driven, and they're super passionate about their offers and their businesses, how when those people sometimes feel disconnected from their audience, most happens when they have to go into the back end of their business and they're working on things that help them achieve their goals. What do I mean? Tech, especially, right? Maybe a small business now wants to make more things happen with more automation, and we're going to use more tech. And that tech is a different landing page builder or a funnel builder or the email sequence, the email service that you're using to connect with people, or putting out social media in a smarter way or doing more video. All of these things, right? They don't necessarily have huge roadblocks, but when you add them all together, they can really feel like huge roadblocks. And they can feel people being very disconnected from their audience because they're just working on the back end of the business. And that's something that we never want you to feel disconnected from. I mean, at the end of the day, marketing's super emotional, right? Advertising is crazy emotional, right? Marketing and advertising together, they're just the type of thing that can make you feel very vulnerable. And that's why it is a great thing to keep coming home to the golden rule as a bit of a check-in, right? It's like, oh yeah, we're going to come home now. We're going to have, for me, I think of it as a touchstone. Oh, I get to come home. I get to have this touchstone and say, what am I going to do next? Which step is this going to be? At the end of the day, it's probably going to be a little emotional somehow because that's the nature of the game. It feels better and it works seemingly just a little bit better when it is about reminding yourself that, oh, I just want to treat people like I want to be treated, and then put those things in place so you never lose the connection with your audience. We're going to talk about a lot of things in the course of this podcast, but one thing that comes to mind too, as we kind of finish this first episode, is how many people don't really know their audience all that well. And so that's probably something that we'll dive into really, really well and pretty consistently inside this podcast too. If you want to make a lot more sales in your business and you want to use marketing practices that feel really good for you, right? Advertising that feels really good for you, where you get to completely take and totally remove and just shove out and lock the door on anything like sales is icky, sales doesn't make me feel good, I feel forceful, I feel, right? You may feel any of these things. When you come back and allow all your marketing to start from a place of deep connection instead of just transaction, all of that stuff naturally gets to go away. And that is really what we're planning to give you more of and bring you on more of that journey throughout this podcast as well. So keep this in mind. You give your audience what they want, and they're going to give you what you want with your business. It is always going to be a two-way street. If we can keep coming back to you giving your audience what you want, and I'm going to say you doing it through this filter of the golden rule, using the golden rule and saying, well, I'm going to allow them, at least starting off this process, I'm going to treat them like I would want to be treated and trust that that's the perfect starting point. But it is something that always lets you come home, reminds me consistently every day in my business of my family and especially my parents who just get to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. It's such a shocking thing. It's so awesome. It's so awe-inspiring. It's something it's hard to get your head around. But I want your business to last for 50 years if that's what you want. If you want to run your business for 5 years and cash out, I want that for you too. And there's nothing wrong with any of those options. But if you want it to run for 50 years and you feel called to serve your audience and provide your service and show up the way you can show up as authentically, beautifully, and holistically as possible, where you're aligned and synced up with your audience, then I think we're going to have a really good time together inside this journey with Josh, inside this journey with me here. So let me come back to one thing that I started with saying a little earlier, which is love and business are not incompatible. Love and business can move you forward. And I will go so far as to say that love and business, love inside your business may sometimes in the most difficult, emotional, complicated, obstacle-filled, roadblock-heavy way, love may be the thing that carries you through all of that with as much grace and space as possible and starts to give you what you want as you give your audience what they want. It all comes down to love. And with that, it keeps coming back to the golden rule. So again, thank you so much for joining me inside this inaugural episode of a podcast. This is a really special year for me, which I'll talk more about throughout the podcast. But I'm very grateful and happy that you are joining me here right now. And I hope that we get to know each other better as you join me in the coming weeks. I will see you next time.